Hey everybody, it's Abby from Craft Industry Alliance. Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. We come here live every Wednesday to do a member spotlight where we have the opportunity to talk to an incredible Craft Industry Alliance member and learn more about their business. And so this week we get to talk to Cameron from Ergo Kiwi. And this is a really cool business. I think you're going to be and so hopefully Cameron will be able to pop on and join us in just a moment. Let's see, what else is going on around here? We are planning all of the education for H&H Americas. That's what I'm busy working on. Hey, Cameron, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Nice to see you. Cameron,
Thanks.
tell us where you are based. I'm in Boston. Where are you?
We are also in I technically right now am in Winthrop, but our office is over in Newmarket Square.
Oh, wow. So you are really close to us. So that's awesome. We could have done this in person if we had
It's
planned.
week. I didn't even think of that, and that would have been
Yeah.
awesome.
So tell us a little bit about your product because I think it's super cool and I want everybody to be able to understand it and experience it.
Sure. So the company's called Ergo Kiwi, and we started by making our craft knife or a hobby knife, if you will.
Hmm.
It all started actually in architecture school when you're in studio, your hand gets pretty sore after hours of cutting. And me and my partner were also worked in the CNC room. So we kind of like got a lot of opportunities to mess around and explore a form that would help, ease the pain in your hand. And so, yeah, luckily we were in architecture studio. A lot of our classmates were interested in getting one as well. So we got probably over 200 iterations over time to develop. So we kind of developed the perfect ergonomic form that will fit any hand in whatever way that you cut. And yeah, we started that. It got so popular, we brought to Kickstarter, made $90,000 in about, I think, a week.
Wow.
And so no longer am I an architect. I am now in the knife business.
A full-time knife developer. So, I mean, I think this is awesome. I have like a very sort of mundane, very basic, I think it's an Exacto brand, Exacto knife, and I use it. But, the handle is just like a tube essentially,
And I
and kind of like
bet, do you ever need to find some way to modify it to just make it more comfortable?
I would love to. And I've thought about putting, one of those like pencil grippers.
Sure.
I'm talking about putting one of those on, but this really solves that problem. And I think for people who are using their X-Acto knife all the time, I'm imagining beyond architecture, like people who work cutting paper. What other uses do you find people have who use an X-Acto knife so often that they really would like an ergonomic tool?
So interestingly, we kind of realized that, these knives are something that a lot of professionals use in a lot of different areas. Like leather workers are
Leather,
very popular.
totally.
Um, like paper cutters, quilters, so
Yeah,
many different people. And
yeah.
so it's been very interesting kind of this. Sorry, am I echoing?
Only a tiny bit, not
Oh,
too much. Yeah.
um, yeah. So we kind of realized that there's people across the spectrum that use them, and it's usually just professionals. We wanted to create a tool that would you're not going to have to replace. So it's something that's going to last forever, and it's going to be something that you don't need to replace again. So we started with making them out of wood.
Yeah, let me see the wood ones.
So is
So beautiful.
this is the plywood. Um, yeah, and then we also have bacote, which is another. This is a rare wood from Mexico or
Oh,
South
wow.
America, but this is specifically from Mexico. And then we also do paper stone, which is a synthetic material that it's actually made of compressed paper, but
Oh,
it has like the feeling of stone.
oh, wow. That's so cool. I'd have to feel that one.
So yeah, it was interesting. Our goal with our Kickstarter was to create this. This is the plastic injection molded one, and it's the one that we could afford as college students.
Right.
And once we brought to Kickstarter, we realized that a lot of professionals if they're going to be buying a tool that they're going to be able to keep forever, they're willing to invest in it. So that's when we started making these premium ones. So the aircraft plywood right here, this one is actually 24 layers of plywood. So
Wow.
it really gives you that beautiful profile.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's how we started. And that was 5, 6 years ago, I believe.
Okay.
And ever since then, we've been planning and exploring how to expand our offering beyond just knives. So the past couple of years, we've been really working on our IP and developing new ways of um, innovating and creating a better workplace space for people. So, for instance, we have this one here. Everybody needs to carry their knife around someplace. So we had originally came up with this, which is it's the Kiwi carrier, and so it's basically just a way to hold your
Right.
knife and keep
Store
it
your
safe.
knife and replacement blades.
Yep. And so this was actually just based on the theory that our knives are designed around a magnet. So the mechanics of it make it so that it will never wear over time.
So when you say
And
around magnets, what do you mean by that?
so if you take this, for instance, we have a blade, right?
Yeah.
The blade can be inserted in, a magnet
Oh, it's magnetic.
automatically engages it.
So on like my really basic, X-Acto knife that I have had for a million years, it's just like I feel like it's a screw, like it opens and the little prongs open and then they closes and they grasp it. So this is actually held in by a magnet.
Yes, so that's one of the major things we wanted to avoid is that screw over time gets loose and it gets very frustrating.
It
So
also
we
just
wanted
like gets stuck too. Like it can also just get like gummed up and
to,
stuck.
yes. So yeah, that was our goal. Is we wanted to create something that was could easily engage, and the mechanical system will never fail. So it's basically the magnet does all the work. The latch hold the blade in place, and so yeah, and it's also great because you can stick it, especially like my studio when there's metal surfaces, you can store it all
Right.
over the place.
Yeah, totally. Oh, that's so cool. That's definitely a huge innovation.
Sure.
That's awesome. Okay, so you've made the case where people can carry that. Or like store their knife if they're not using it.
Yeah. So this is just an easy carrying case. It fits in your pocket, keeps all your things safe, so you're not like sticking your hand in your bag and then all of a sudden your blades are loose and stick in your hands.
Yeah.
And we're actually kind of evolving that into a new evolution of it's called the Kiwi carrier or the Kiwi nest.
Okay.
And so this is kind of everybody that is a crafter usually has their key tools they always want on hand.
Yeah, I have them
And
right here on my desk. Yep.
there you go. So what we want to do is we want to create something that would be an easy way to store those that declutters your desk, but doesn't. It's not just a jar full of all the pens. It's like your favorite pen and your pencil and your knife and
Right.
things like that, right? So it's literally everything can be inserted in, so it's held.
Will you
And then
show
on
us
top of
like the black part? Like what is the surface that is holding them?
so the
Okay.
surface is actually a silicone. It's almost like a brush, but a really long one, so it can fit
Okay.
any kind of shape.
Oh my gosh, I need this. This is so cool.
And then the most important part about it is that it actually doubles as your sharps collection. So on the bottom, it actually keeps, so when you are done with blades, you put it on the bottom like this,
Okay.
and then you can pull it out and it disengages. So you can dump them straight into something
So
safer.
there's a magnet on the underside of this long brush.
Yes, exactly. So this is our first evolution of coming up with the new products since the handle and the carrier, and we are in the process of planning about 5 new products in the next year.
Okay, so keep a lookout for those because these are really innovative and imaginative, but also feel like something that people who are actually crafters, it's made for people who really, it's made by people who really understand what crafters need, is what I'm trying to say. So, I mean, I feel like, people from the outside who try to create something that they think people need, but people don't really need, you can tell, if it's like, if
Yes.
it comes within the community, it's like, okay, I get it. These are people who know what people who are working with their hands actually want.
So I like to think of as we are working for makers by makers.
Right, exactly. And are you doing direct to consumer sales right now, or how is that part working?
So we are currently direct to consumer. We're actually, I've built a new team around me in the past couple of years, and we're aiming to really start our distribution so that we're going to be more B2B. Um, that's also another reason why we're really focusing on developing new products. Is, our SKU count is critical to be able to get into physical retail stores.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, everybody loves the product, and the interesting part for us has been we are kind of changing the paradigm on what it means to be like these traditional tools that are usually high volume, like low costs. And
Yeah.
now it's becoming like we're trying to create something that's high value that you buy once and you're never going to need to replace,
Well, here's
right?
why I think that this is a good time for that, which is to say that, there was a time when, for example, sewing your own clothes was cheaper than
Mhm.
buying clothes in a store. That time has long gone. And
Sure,
now people are turning to sewing their own clothes for a whole host of other reasons. But a lot of it is a mind body connection. A lot of it is being able to create something that's custom,
sure.
that nobody else has, that's made to fit you, that sort of thing, and is meditative to make and gives you that sense of satisfaction, and connection to other people in the maker community and that sort of thing. Those are the motivators. And so I think in that environment, having a tool that is beautiful to use, feels good, is something that you don't need to throw in the garbage, when it breaks, inevitably, it really kind of aligns with those same sort of values and reasoning for making things.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what we really found is particularly like we put a lot of thought into the materials we use because anybody that's a creative is also has their own personal expression, right? And material is just as important to self-expression as anything else. So all of our materials are kind of like representative. People identify with them differently.
Yeah. And have you considered doing white labeling down the road?
We have thought about it. Currently, our concept is, we want our brand to be innovative. And, we've thought about white labeling in some parts and, we've looked around and considered it for the interim, but we keep coming back to the thought that maybe we don't want to do that. We want to just, really bring new ideas to the table all the time.
Totally. That's super cool. And I think that if you do end up being able to do distribution, wholesale distribution, I feel like coming to a trade show and meeting the retailers that way, both e-commerce and brick and mortar, they're going to love this. And I think there's also precedent in people making their own crochet hooks, for example. I'm sure you've sort of checked that
Every-
out, but I
Everybody
recently
says the crochet
interviewed
hook
somebody who
and
does that. Yeah. And those are really popular.
yes, definitely, definitely. It's also funny. So we did one prior to, our business transition here. We went to Creativation,
Hmm.
and that was our first trade show. We didn't know anything about trade shows. We get there and like they had like the new product section where people could vote on new innovative products. We didn't even know about that, and everybody came to us saying, "You should have submitted. You would have won, guaranteed."
Right. Totally.
So
But you have to live
yeah,
and learn. You got to go check it out, see, make all the mistakes. I mean, that's part of being new in business. So,
it's so much so.
yeah,
A lot of
absolutely.
learning.
Yeah, totally. So, do you have like a factory on site, or where are you producing these?
So we currently manufacture all the wood ones on site. So all the paper stone, the bacote, and the plywoods, we manufacture those on site. These ones, we actually have a factory that manufactures them for us. It is too tall of a order to try to be injection molding.
Right. Injection molding's a whole thing. Yeah.
Yes, but we've been trying to get everything from made in America as possible, and it's been a challenge, but it's been doable.
Yeah. And I think that that's also sort of goes back to what we were talking about previously regarding purchasing a tool that might be a little bit more expensive, but is truly beautiful and aligns with your values, and why you're making things and spending lots of money and lots of time to make something by hand when you could just buy something that's cheaper in the store that might be more disposable, etc.
Absolutely. And I've also noticed, I mean, despite the fact you can go to like Old Navy and buy a pair of pants for $15, right? But you also at the same time you've been seeing like, the growth of Etsy and the number of people that are making things on the side, like the DIY community is growing a lot. And it's really great to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you are, thrifting and upcycling, reusing and customizing, that also counts, right? It doesn't have to be completely made from scratch.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And that's
Yeah.
a very large community.
Absolutely. There's a huge market for it. And I love beautiful tools and I love investing in beautiful tools. And it makes the process of making things even more enjoyable. When you do have that time to spend, you might as well enjoy every moment of it. And so having great tools really counts for that. So it sounds like you've got lots of new things coming down the pipeline. How can people stay up to date with all the developments in the months and years to come?
So our website is www.ergokiwi.com at ERGOKIWI. And we also have our social medias are all Ergo Kiwi. And so for Instagram, we're pretty active. YouTube, we're somewhat active. But yeah, we'll be constantly, we'll always be on Instagram.
Sounds good. And that's where your community is. And just tell me before we end, the name Ergo Kiwi, I get the ergo part, ergonomic, but where does the kiwi part come from?
So the Kiwi is actually, when we were designing it, we were trying to figure out what to call it. And, even not just like, well, we can't say X-Acto knife. That would be weird. So we were always trying to come up with a term to describe it just, while we were designing it. And if you look, the shape almost looks like a bird.
Yeah, with a beak.
Similar to a kiwi bird. So we kind of use that as like a placeholder. And over time, that just became the staple name that we referred to it as. And then because of the ergonomics and kind of like a double entendre terminology of like ergo kiwi, as in we're synonymous with kiwi, that's
Right.
how we got the name.
That's cute. And it's really memorable. And you've got two syllable, pieces, ergo, kiwi, so they kind of balance each other out. I don't know. It's easy to remember. And sounds like the domain was available and the social handles were available. So that's always a plus. So I think
Absolutely.
that's a very memorable name and one that I think, listeners can definitely hang on to. So that's great too. And I hope we get to meet in person at some point, given that we don't live too far away from one another. And maybe I'll see you at a trade show too.
We absolutely should.
All right. Sounds good. That would be great. Thank you to everybody who joined us today and learned a little bit more about these beautiful knives and other tools to come as well. And we'll see you next week for our next member spotlight. But it was great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye. Bye, everybody. Take care.